this is Arch's 150-pound watercolor paper, and it's designed to soak up water and to embrace the pigment, which is tiny, tiny little particles of paint, of pigment. Shows up as color. It's organic color, you know, it's pigment, so it's like ground up stuff. In our world, we forget that the things that we smell, well, actually, we've been reminded of this in the recent past, but the things that we smell through our olfactory sense and the things like that we react to and love are tiny, tiny little particles of various elements and things that react with us, with our human system. So for instance, this flower, these flowers, these peonies, they smell a certain way. They have an effect on the animal kingdom, which we're part of. So flowers can not only affect us visually, but they can affect us with their beautiful scents, and they can nourish us that way. We actually take in these tiny little particles of their essence as scent. This can be very healing. You know what aromatherapy is? It's exactly that. It's a kind of medicine. And there are, so that's on the physical plane. And then if we were to take it into a higher vibrational state, they also emit an energy which is vibrational and not in physical form. And that's what I am working with right now, because their form actually has a way of setting up vibration into the atmosphere, which we are designed to imbibe. We are, you know, we evolved on this planet for thousands, millions of years, and so we have a very symbiotic relationship with Mother Nature. So I'm going to be quiet while I work a little bit here and get into this painting. So I do pay attention to my breath as I'm working. And I know if I'm having a day that has anxiety attached to it, that I really have to pay attention to my breath as I'm working and set up before I start working so that I'm really connected to myself and therefore what I'm doing in my work. You want to take really deep, slow breaths, rhythmic, and realize that all of life is here to support you, nourish you, love you, invite you into greater aspects of being. So when I started this painting, I wasn't super focused and I couldn't really get into it. And I was going through something in my mind that was actually separating me from myself. And so I thought, what am I doing here? Put it aside, and then you let a little time go. You let a little time go by, and things kind of like reboot and refresh, and then you can see a lot more when you put a painting down for a while. Well, that's what I'm into right now. I haven't seen this painting in front of my, well, it's been in plain sight for a while, but I haven't seen it on the drawing table in a while. I haven't worked on it. Now I am. Got a lot to do. That never bothers me, because it's really about the process. It's such a great process it opens the vision, makes you see. And it's really kind of a nice meditation process that I've developed here. I didn't do it like thinking that that's what I was doing, but lo and behold, that's what wound up becoming the reality of what I do, which is the paintings are like this great byproduct from meditation that I do with the artwork in front of me. And you can do it too, is my point. That's why I'm sharing this with you. Your work will come out unique and amazing, even if you follow exactly what I tell you to do or instruct, because like you can only do what's yours. You can only do the work that you were meant to do. And you could start out, you could start out by taking instruction or whatever. It's a personal journey. It does help though to have some mentorship, or somebody that has some experience that you don't, it takes a lot of time when you do it just purely on your own, which is what I did. I did go to school, but this is not what I learned in school. In fact, what I do is kind of a response to the things that shut me down in my school days and in a different time. We're no longer in that time, thank goodness. It was so interesting, to say the least. So I've always had my own vision open. I've never been, someone who wants to really reproduce something that somebody else is doing, though I really appreciate a lot of what other people do. I know that it's my job to help people find their own vision, to really give them a heads up, cheer them on, give them some good practical advice, and, that kind of thing. So I don't know if you could tell, but I'm putting on so little paint. It's just really, some people would call this painstaking, but it's just the way I work. It doesn't bother me. But it's very, very subtle layers that go in and get absorbed by the paper, and then I move on and on and on. But it's a very, very subtle process of building the layers, building them up. And it's enjoyable. I'm not trying to finish the painting. Eventually the paintings all get finished and I'm fairly productive, but it's not really about that at all. I'm very involved in the process, and that's what makes it kind of cool. So I would urge you to understand that as a premise. You will accomplish, you will have great joy when you finish a painting and you see it and you frame it and somebody buys it, or you give it to your friend or family. But it's really about the process, and that process that you go through is embedded in the painting. And the more you're, say, focused and integrated in your self and in your spiritual maturity, the power in what you do, your power becomes greater, basically. Your ability to transmit and embed your feelings and your prayers, basically, into the work become more and more apparent. It's a process. Everybody can do this. In fact, this is something that is kind of built into the human mechanisms. So, let's see. Now I have to keep looking and revisiting and asking myself silently, and then not in words really, but I have to keep asking myself, what am I seeing? What am I seeing? What's really here? I mean, honestly, the only thing that's here is space. But I won't get too abstract. This, what is here is not copying the photo as in photorealism, but it is you're looking deeper and deeper. When you set up to work like this with the instruction that I give in my classes, you're able to look very deeply and use the painting as a point of departure. And while you may not need my classes to do that, let me just remind you that that's a way that you can work, and that's a way that you can achieve what it is you would like to achieve with your work. So I urge you to try it, to do it. Just if you can sense into what I'm doing right now, even though I'm talking, that's what I'm doing. So I'm looking at light. I'm looking at the interplay of light and dark. Well, these very, very subtle shadows. So these paintings can take quite a long time to do. And when I'm not talking, it's a little bit faster, but not that much faster. But I spend hours and hours doing this without stopping. So usually I work for 4 hours at a time, and then I take a break, and then I'll work for another 4 hours in a day. And again, this is not, if you get tired, you have to stop, because you really have to honor the body. So it's I'm running a lot of energy when I'm doing this. So you have to respect your own limits, basically, your body, how it works. When you need to rest and recharge, you simply need to put your attention on something else and let your system recuperate, so you can do more the following day or whenever you pick it up. One of the things I like about watercolor, and I paint in all mediums, including oil, acrylic, whatever, everything. I like watercolor for a whole lot of reasons, and one of the reasons is that I can walk away from it, and I don't have to worry that my paint is going to dry up and be unusable. Watercolor, it dries, but it's you just re-wet it, and it's good to go. So I like that. I really do. And plus, it has such a luminous quality to it. There's all kinds of things you can do with it. But this is just extremely basic. What I'm doing is just really pure watercolor on paper with a paintbrush. There's no, there's nothing else. And I'm working with mostly Daniel Smith brand watercolor paint. I like the fact that it's really highly pigmented with less of the filler mediums, and that's really good. So paint can get you can load the paint up onto the paper and it'll puddle, which I don't know if you could see that right here. I wait for it to dry and then I can move it around some more. I can move it around. In other words, it's not as permanent as where people say and are terrified to work with watercolor, because they say once you make a mark with it, that's it. It depends. It doesn't have to be that way. This is kind of a foolproof method to use, because it's just a tiny bit of paint, a little bit of paint at a time, nothing extreme. Although sometimes I could get kind of extreme in my application.